can. So the first thing we need to do is get the motion from last night back on the table. I'll entertain a motion to bring the motion back on the table.
Move, we put the motion back on the table.
Second.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded that we put the motion back on the table. So if you can just, all those in favor, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Mr. Moulton, are you okay with putting the motion back on the table?
Yes, and I hit the raise hand button, but I guess that might not work, but yes, I am.
Okay. Okay.
Can you repeat the motion, please?
I will in just a second.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so then we can, and there's none opposed, so that motion carries to put it back on the table. So here's the motion. The original motion was to move the start date to 8/31 and absorb the 5 days, from the Thanksgiving break, Christmas break, district PD, and then add the 5 days at the end of the school year, contingent upon the Masters Week not having patrons. So what I'd like to do is go ahead and amend that motion to make it a little bit simpler, because what we could do is make a decision on the start date first and get that taken care of, and then we can talk about a calendar second and make that a separate action. So I'll amend my motion to just say that I move to change the student start date to 8/31/20. So I think, Dr. Bradley, you had originally seconded it.
I'll second the revised motion.
Okay, so the motion right now is to move the start date to 8/31. So we can have any other discussion on that right now. So just kind of raise your hand if you have some other comments that you'd like to make on the start date. And let me check my phone because Ms. Shealy just texted me. So Ms. Shealy just shared with us that she can't get on because of the internet trouble, but she does support the August 31st start date, and then she has an option that she likes for the calendar. So if there's no other comments on the start date, we can go ahead and vote on that and then move on to a discussion on the calendar. Okay, so all those in favor of moving the start date to August 31st, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Mr. Moulton.
I'm in favor, Mr. Liner.
Okay, so that would be 6. Those opposed? 2 opposed. So the motion carries, and the start date is moved to August 31st. And that vote was 6-2. Ms. Shealy can't vote since I can't get her on the screen here. So, okay, so we resolved that. That's the first thing. So now the next thing is to see how we're going to fit that start date into a calendar. And I'm going to let Mr. Lawrence go ahead and go over some options that we have. And I'll just say, we don't have to make a decision about the calendar tonight. And I'm going to kind of just let Mr. Lawrence go through it and see what we want to do. We could wait till our next meeting, which is the second week of August, to make a decision if we really wanted to, or we can do it tonight. So however we land on the discussion. So go ahead, Mr. Lawrence.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the board. I looked at having the start date in anticipation of having the start date as August 31st. I did some proposed options that I'm going to share with everyone in just a second. But first, I do want to share our current policy that deals with can find it here. Our current policy that deals with the calendar, and for some reason is not showing up. Let me see. Oh, there it is. Okay, so I think you should be able to see policy ICA school calendar on your screen now. And I'll see if I can make it a little bigger. I don't know if that helped at all on the Zoom screen, but basically the only part that I wanted to point out is I gave you a calendar that has some suggestions for how we get the whole school year in by about mid-June, but I didn't put any weather makeup days on there. I had originally suggested some dates, but then in reviewing this policy, I see that it says we do have the option by policy of using teacher in-service work days as needed, and then those days could be made up in other ways by lengthening school days or by use of Saturdays as approved by the principal. So there are ways other than selecting holidays. Now the cleanest way, just throwing it out there, the cleanest way is to select holidays because everybody's off that. So if everybody's off on a holiday and you have to make up a school day, then you don't have to figure out, well, who's a 12-month employee and when would they make up the time and who, and looking at people's different contracts and work schedules. So that's just a cleaner way to do it, but it's not the only way to do it. Another option that came up and one that many districts are using is if they have one-to-one technology in their schools and each student has an assigned laptop or other device, then they can use distance learning to make up those days. Unfortunately, we're not quite there yet. We have been designated or are about to be designated as an emerging district when it comes to one-to-one technology, which would, a year from now, allow us to use that option so that once we have our one-to-one system up and running and have devices in all of our students' hands, the State Department will review our program and we can ask for approval to use that for makeup days. So in other words, if it snows and we have to cancel school, well, kids can work from home remotely if they have the device. But we're not there yet, so we still, by law, have to designate 3 days in our calendar. So with that, I want to change. Any questions about that before I share some calendars?
I have a question. You're saying that all students will not have a device?
They won't right away. They will. We've got devices that we expect to be here in mid-September, and then we've got more devices that we expect to be here in October, November. But the situation we ran into is that hundreds and hundreds of school districts across the country and maybe across the world suddenly ordered thousands of laptop computers at the same time. So what should have been a 1 month to 6 week turnaround on delivery is turning into several months on delivery.
Can we gamble? We should have the laptops before the cold season comes. What we're gambling on now is some kind of storm, hurricane, tornado, something like that, probably as a weather catastrophe that would cause us to have to make up a day. Can we just not deal with that and hope that it doesn't happen and worry about it if it does?
Well, our experience has told us when we presented this calendar to the State Department earlier in the year, we only had 2 weather makeup days on it, and they rejected it and told us we had to have 3 days designated, so we had to designate another day. So I don't think they would go for that until we are fully approved for one-to-one computing. Okay, so with that, I'm going to share another screen with you.
King, while you doing that, is there any way the sound can get louder? It's as loud as it'll go on my iPad.
Yeah, I hear you pretty good, so I don't know. Charles, if there is any way to do that, I'm not aware of one.
No, sir. There's no way to do that through the software. That's relied upon the person's device that's logging in, unfortunately.
Thank you, Charles.
Yes, sir.
So Mr. Smith, I'm going to talk louder.
Thank you.
We'll see what happens with that. So the calendar that I'm showing you now, this is just one option, and it's I drew up 3 today. And what this one does, it has our start date as August 31st. It has leap days, which is the elementary and middle school additional 5 days that were approved by the General Assembly. And then teachers return on the 24th, and that week is the same as it typically is the week before school starts. No change to Labor Day, no changes other than in the original calendar, I think we had October 19th as a parent-teacher conference day. Well, parent-teacher conference day really needs to coincide with the end of the first quarter. So the end of the first quarter isn't until, on this calendar, won't be until November 4th, I believe. Either November 4th or November. Anyway, it's the end of October, 1st of November. So what I've done is I've left that fall break in there. We have election day off and we have to do that, but I left that fall break in there, but on Monday, rather than it being a complete break, it would be the parent-teacher conference day. And then the rest of the week would be off for students and staff, except for 12-month staff. I think we had clarified that earlier, that 12-month staff would still be on contract during that week. This calendar also removes one, it's up a little bit more. It also removes one, and I don't see December on this for some reason. It removes one day from Thanksgiving break, and it also removes 2 days from Christmas break. And I do not know why I don't see December on there. Make sure I'm going to change the way this looks. Okay, there we go. So for some reason I cut December and June off, and kind of important months for people. So it takes a day off of Thanksgiving, that's the 25th, and it takes 2 days off of Christmas, the 21st and 22nd. Then when we get into January, we have that 4th was already a teacher work day. To coincide with the end of the second quarter, which would be later in January, the teacher work day becomes the 29th. We still have Martin Luther King Day as a holiday. We still have President's Day as a holiday in February. Then the end of the third quarter is around the 1st of April. So the 1st had been a weather makeup day. The 1st of April had been a weather makeup day. Now it becomes a teacher work day at the end of the quarter. We still have Good Friday and spring break there in April. Then we have Memorial Day in May. And what that does is it takes us to the 17th of June being the last day of school. So graduation would be on the 17th and 18th, with a teacher day being on the 18th. Now, again, I don't have any weather makeup days in that, but that just gives you the basic dates. We're required to have 10 professional development / teacher work days in the calendar. And this does have 10 of those days. 5 at the beginning of the year, and then the other 5 are scattered throughout the year. Right? I'm gonna, if it's okay with you, I'm gonna go ahead and just share each of these, and then I'll answer questions about them, and I can pull different ones up as needed.
As
right? So next,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay. So the next one is similar, except that all of that fall break is taken out. Pretty much everything else is the same. The only difference is the fall break is removed. You still are losing the day at Thanksgiving. You're still losing a couple of days at Christmas. The parent-teacher conference day becomes the 2nd of November, which is right at the end of the first quarter. When we go into 2021, everything stays pretty much the same as in that first calendar I showed you, except that the last day of school becomes June 11th. So that shortens that by a week at the end. We would have graduation on the 10th and 11th. Now, historically, we've had the last day of school on that Thursday, and teacher work day on the Friday, with graduations, no classes on graduation day. It wouldn't be that much of a stretch, I don't think, simply because we've always had graduations on that Thursday, and that Thursday's always been a school day. So the last day of school would actually be that second day of graduation ceremonies. And then the teacher work day would be moved to that Monday, the 14th. So you can see with that calendar, we're able to graduate on the 11th. And then the last one that I shared with you, let's see. The last one that I shared with you earlier, this one, again, eliminates the fall break, but in this one, everything else is the same, except I included Thanksgiving and Christmas just like they're scheduled now. So instead of losing the 25th during Thanksgiving break, we keep the 25th. Instead of losing the 21st and 22nd in the winter break, we keep those 2 dates. When we go into 2021, you can see that that it's essentially the same as the other calendars, with the same holidays, the same teacher work days, and professional development days. The difference in this one is the last day of school is actually the 16th of June, which is a Wednesday. And then I've put in there that graduations would be on the 16th and 17th. That is, that's Wednesday and Thursday. We're not used to doing that, but we could do graduation on the Friday, but it's not a work day for teachers. So if we did that, one way we might have to have another date somewhere in the year that would push and make the last day of school the 17th, so that would happen. I really don't have a problem with it being a Wednesday and Thursday, but some other folks might question that a little bit.
Mr. Lawrence.
But we could do something. So those are the 3 options that I prepared. Again, I'm not proposing these options. I just wanted the board to have something to look at while you were talking about this.
Mr. Silas has a question, and then Mr. Crane, do you have a question also?
Well, I just got a message that someone says the feed may have died. Can we just check that real quick? I don't have a question yet. I will, but I just wanted to jump in on that. Sorry, technical thing.
Okay.
So, Mr. Lawrence, my question is, if you could remind me, because I was not able to pull up the current calendar before we started our meeting, what is the current approved end date and graduation date?
Okay, I'm going to pull that up for you right now, just because I can do that real quick. The current is the 10th is the last day of school, and let me share this with you. 10th is the last day of school, and then the 10th and 11th are graduation dates.
So option B would maintain that end schedule.
Yeah, option B would maintain that end schedule. Is this calendar up? You see that?
Yes.
Okay. So what you're seeing here, this is June in the existing calendar, and you see we end up with the 10th being the last day of school, and the 11th, 10th and 11th being graduation dates. What changes there is The only difference in this one and the second one that I showed you earlier is that in our current calendar, the last day of school is the 10th. In that second option that I gave you, the last day of school is the 11th. We could still easily do graduations on the 10th and the 11th. So we essentially end at the same time that we already have approved to end.
That's all I need to know. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Mr. Crane, did you have a question?
Well, I guess more so a comment. I think I'm in the same school of thought as Mr. Silas. I'd like to try and maintain as much as we can the calendar, which was my biggest concern with doing a 2-week extension. And I voiced that last night. My opinion is we probably need to go after the November Masters Week first. Several of the things that were discussed, I agree with.
I agree too.
But that's it. Not really a question.
And
All right.
option B took those days away, didn't it? Option B went ahead and assumed that the Masters days were coming back to us.
Yes, sir. I'm putting that one back up real quick. And so, yeah, this one has school ending on the 11th. That will be the last day for students. And I've got on here the graduation dates would be the 10th and 11th, which would be the same as what is already approved. It eliminates that fall break, 9th through the 13th, but it also takes away 1 day at Thanksgiving break, and it takes away 2 days at winter break. But it doesn't have a real significant impact anywhere else in the calendar, other than shifting things forward. So those teacher work days are shifted a couple of weeks forward because we typically want those to coincide with the end of the 9 week, because that's when teachers need that time to prepare for report cards and those kinds of things. And obviously, after the first quarter, having that parent-teacher conference.
Mr. Liner, one more thing, please.
Go ahead, Mr. Silas.
Can you speak to those half-day dismissal days? I don't think I've ever been a fan of those, but what are your thoughts on that? And could that benefit us in some way, or what impact would that have?
Let me unmute. So I'd like to speak to that. It doesn't benefit us in any way as far as the calendar is concerned, because the state really doesn't recognize using half days to make up any time anywhere. What it does do, and I certainly suggest that, and I didn't put those dates on any of these proposals. I think that I think we could use that instructional time. I mean, I don't want to take away from training and opportunities for teachers to collaborate with each other and for professional learning communities. All of those things are important. But as I've said, every chance anybody would listen to me for the past several months, this is an emergency situation, and I think some sacrifices have to be made. And if we can squeeze out a few more hours through the year for direct instruction, I think that's a good idea.
All right. I have Miss Shealy on my phone, and Miss Shealy, do you want to try to make a statement or say something about the calendar and see if it'll pick it up on my computer? Or?
Sure.
Yeah.
Talk to you guys about the calendar, and I think that I like option B.
Okay. Did you all hear?
Without changing that graduation date if possible.
Did you all hear Miss Shealy all right then? I'm getting a lot of head shaking. Okay, good.
Repeat it, please.
I did not.
She said that she would prefer option B because she's in favor of keeping the revised calendar as close to the original calendar as possible. So that's what she said she would be in favor of if we would move in that direction.
Mr. Lauder, may I make a comment?
Yeah, sure, Mr. Moulton, go ahead.
I've certainly dealt with this all day, and I totally agree with option B, and I just want to clarify why. It's probably in the same lane as Mr. Silas and Mr. Crane, in that I really don't think we need to impact those graduation dates. And I think option B is the only one that does not impact the graduation dates. And as far as Masters Week, I don't think people are going to be nearly as concerned about that week, even if they allow patrons, which is very questionable at this point. I don't think that's nearly the issue that changing the graduation dates would be. So for that reason, I definitely support option B.
Thank you, Mr. Moulton. That's a good comment. Ms. Reinhardt Jackson and then Mr. Cream.
Can you hear me?
We can.
All right. Mr. Lawrence, I have a question about the half days.
Yes.
Because we're going to the cohorts, where kids are going Monday, Tuesday, and then we have a group going Wednesday and Thursday. The Wednesday and Thursday students, they're going to be impacted every month on that Wednesday. Is that what I hear you saying? And we should, and that's the reason for the elimination of the half day so that they can go that full day. Is that correct?
Yeah, they would certainly be impacted, and that's part of it. But just from a general standpoint, if we were able to get back to normal within a couple of months, I still think squeezing out those extra hours of instruction is going to be important this year.
Okay, thank you.
And another thing that I did not, and this isn't part of that, but something that that folks mentioned to me, the instructional team mentioned to me over a month ago, and I just let it slip my mind, so I apologize for that. We're losing Monday for Labor Day, Monday the 7th for Labor Day, and then we're going to lose if cohorts, if the hybrid model goes on through November, we're going to lose November 3rd, which is a Tuesday, and November 2nd, which is a Monday. So we can't do anything about the about Election Day, but maybe we look at shifting that parent conference day to Wednesday or Thursday. I don't know if that would be disruptive, and it needs to be, but that might allow for some equalization between the Monday Tuesday cohort and the Wednesday Thursday cohort. That was something that was suggested to me, and then it slipped my mind when I was going through these calendars.
So just for clarification, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you can.
Okay, just so that everyone out there would know. So are we, let's just say we pick B. And if we pick calendar B, is that going to be with the half days eliminated? Yes or no?
The half days are not on this calendar. So
Okay.
if you look at the original calendar, you'll see, let me show you, I got to be careful because there may be things that were on the original calendar that I need to have on there. But if you'll notice these red squares,
Yes.
those are the early release days. So they are designated on the calendar that you approved previously.
Okay.
So since they're not on this calendar, they would not be approved. Now you could certainly amend something later, and I'm sure that it's possible that I missed something. So if something needed to be amended later, we could bring that to you to amend it. But the ones that I brought you do not have those dates designated on them.
Okay, thank you.
All right, go ahead, Mr. Crane.
All right, thank you. I have maybe a couple of questions. Number one, and I've just gotten this question from a lot of folks. So, Mr. Lawrence, if you wouldn't mind just speaking to it briefly, with what's going to happen to the leap days. I know we talked about that a little bit last night. That's going to get pushed out as of the vote that we just took. Can you just speak to that so folks are aware of that first, please?
Certainly, and in each of these options, I've got the leap days pushed from the week of August 3rd to the week of August 17th. which is the week before teachers officially return. And if Ms. Glover is on the call, and I see her name there, I'm going to call on her to maybe give a better explanation of that. There she is.
So we would like to do the leap days for teachers to come back officially in order to not change contracts for all employees. So the leap days would be actually 2 weeks before students would start back. And just like our schools had been planning for students in grades K through 8 to have an opportunity to come in and see their teachers and do the things we talked about a couple of weeks ago, some social emotional, meeting their teachers, some preliminary assessments, special education, doing their 504s and IEP meetings and initial evaluations. We still would do those things. So we'd like to do those 2 weeks before the actual start date, which on the calendar would be sorry about that, on the 17th, if students are starting back on the 31st.
Okay. Second, maybe point, not necessarily a question. I'm mostly in favor of option B. I have to look back and forth between my phone and my computer. My biggest issue with it ultimately is that it severely impacts the December Christmas break. I don't know if there's a way around that. I don't want to necessarily impact the end date of school, because I've heard from a lot of folks that have already got trips planned, especially seniors. And I've been hearing from a lot of folks that already have their Christmas and Thanksgiving plans in place. And I know to the point that Mr. Lawrence had a moment ago, it's an emergent situation and we're asking for some flexibility. But I'll just toss that out there that it doesn't sit well with me. For everybody, I guess, that we're taking a chunk out of the 2 weeks that we normally give at the Christmas window. And then maybe this is the question out of that. I don't know that we're necessarily going to make a final decision tonight at all on this, or if we are, since I think a lot of the parents are probably going to not necessarily agree with the extension. Can we get some parent input on some of this at some point? Is that a feasible thing to ask for before we approve anything?
I think it's reasonable. Of course, it's the board's decision as to approving the calendar. But in my mind, I think our next meeting is August 11th, and with the first day of school being August 31st, it's reasonable to me to give the community a chance to take a look at that calendar and give comment on it, maybe make some suggestions. Just in the conversation that the board has had in the past few minutes, I've noticed a couple of places that I might suggest a tweak in that option. So I don't think there would be too much objection from anyone once the first day of school is already nailed down. So with that being done, there's nothing that would be done in the calendar that I could really see that would be impactful before November. So I think a couple of weeks is not a bad window of time to take a closer look at it.
I just would probably toss that out there, that getting some parental involvement in that would be, I think, welcome by my constituents. And I think probably everybody would. So that's it. I appreciate all the information and the work put into the 3 potential calendars that you brought to us tonight. Thank you.
Go ahead, Dr. Bradley.
The leap days are the same in all 3 calendars, King?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Silas, you have another question? Anyone else?
I don't think so, except to say that that I think, it may be wise to allow the district some time to finalize a calendar, but I think, maybe with the direction that we keep the end date, intact.
I would agree with that, Mr. Silas.
Would that require a motion then, or just simple direction to present calendars with that goal in mind?
Yeah, if I'm sensing that the board wants, the end date to stay the week of, June 7th through 11th, then those are the kinds of options that I will bring.
I'm satisfied with that.
Hey, just one point of clarification from Ms. Shealy too. The teacher's attendance at leap days, is that mandatory or is that optional? Or if we can reiterate that again, I think we might have covered it last night.
So those optional. I'm sorry, Mr. Lawrence.
I was just calling on you.
Okay. Those dates are optional for teachers and other staff who would support the school normally. They're all eligible and invited, but those days are not mandatory.
Thank you, Ms. Glover.
It's optional.
That's right. That's right.
I have a question, if I could.
Go ahead, Mr. Moulton.
While I certainly agree with allowing the public and the parents and the teachers and everyone to have a look at those calendars and give us input, I will say it does worry me a little bit given all the input we've received on the start date. So the reason I say that is I would like to know what other districts in the area are doing before we just extend this for another 2 weeks of comment. In some ways, I feel like it's on me as a leader to just choose one of these and to basically end some of the chaos. At the same time, I highly value the public's input, so it's a very difficult position.
The major complaint with option B is we don't let people offer the Masters in November should it be held with patrons. That's the major thing, and then we give up to 2 days at Christmas, which essentially takes 4 days away from a Christmas holiday. Is that correct?
Yes, it does, because you would consider Christmas holiday actually beginning on the 19th. So you're losing that Saturday and Sunday plus the Monday and Tuesday.
All the other options extend the school year by another week at least. Correct.
Yes, right now, but I don't know. It just really depends on how flexible we might be willing to be with other holidays. I mean, I know I looked at the policy and it lists the holidays that we should have on the calendar. Of course, the board can suspend a policy, but I mean, you could gain some time if you didn't use Memorial Day, for example. Memorial Day during my career was not a holiday. I mean, it's been within the last couple of decades, if not less than that we've added Memorial Day as a holiday to the school calendar. And I think that's because, you're right at the end of the school year. So why do you take a day off and then end the school year a week later? And we've had many years when we were off on Monday for Memorial Day, and then graduation was that Thursday and Friday. So that's an option that the board could consider, and you can gain back one of those days at Christmas. Another thing is you've got that teacher work day on the 4th. That's a really recent thing that we've added. And I know teachers love that day to come back after the holiday and have a work day in the classroom before students come back on Tuesday. But it depends on, you balance that. Would it be more beneficial to move that work day, say even to the end of the school year or somewhere else, and put that second day of Christmas back in there? So there are some places not many. I'm not going to say there's lots of wiggle room in there, but there are a few places where we could shift a day here or there to put some holidays back at Christmas and still keep school ending the week of June 7th.
I like that idea of Memorial Day and the 4th being work days or school days, and taking the 2 days off at Christmas. I think that most people would rather have the extended Christmas holiday than.
So I can certainly create a
Can I ask a question, please,
one that does that.
before we go?
Go ahead, Mr. Smith.
I believe earlier we voted to extend the year 2 weeks, correct? I mean, to move start date back 2 weeks.
That's right.
Okay. Have we morphed into a conversation of moving it back a third week now, once we've already passed the other?
No. We're just trying to pick a calendar that where those 2 weeks fit. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And I think what I hear is everyone is really interested in keeping the end date the same for school, which would be like June 11th, because that's very close to the calendar we currently have. So that's what we're talking about now.
Okay.
Mr. Louder, can I get one more comment?
Go ahead, Mr. Moulton.
I'm usually not in the naysayer position at all, but the thing that strikes me, I've probably heard from about 40 of my constituents on basically wanting us to make a decision. And if we opt to drag it, I'll go along with what the board says. I have no choice in that. But if we opt to drag this out to August the 11th, I think we shouldn't forget that means everybody's waiting to make their plans because they don't know what's going to happen with the calendar. And so to me, that's the negative side of waiting. I see the positive side of waiting as well, but I just don't want us to lose sight of a lot of people out there wanting us to make a decision so that they can make plans.
That's a good comment, Mr. Moulton. Go ahead, Mr. Smith.
I want to echo what Mr. Moulton said, because I've been answering messages most of the day, and most of the messages I've dealt with are people complaining about us shortening or moving the start date back, and everything continues to be fluid. I would personally like to see us, since we've already made a decision to move it back 2 weeks, that we go ahead and finalize the calendar tonight. It's not that far off from what the option B isn't that far off from the original calendar. And if we need to modify something afterwards, we might can. But I really think people out there want to know tonight.
Go ahead, Dr. Bradley. Go ahead.
Mr. Line, I'd like to make a motion. I move that we adopt option B for the next school year with the adjustments that Mr. Lawrence suggested, specifically restoring the 2 days at Christmas and eliminating Memorial Day and December 4th as days off.
A second.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded that we adopt option B and adjust the calendar to add the Christmas days, replace those by January 4th and Memorial Day. All right, so discussion. Go ahead, Mr. Nessel.
I just want to say, at this point, it's redundant, but I'd like to make that decision tonight. So with about half the folks have said that, I agree. And just so the motion's on the floor, and we're going to discuss that. But I really think if we drag this out, I don't want to get in an exercise of making everybody happy, because we're not going to. And let's make a call tonight.
Okay, I'm good with that. All right, any other discussion on the motion?
And just make sure I heard Dr. Bradley's motion. The 2 days at Christmas would be replaced with January 4th and Memorial Day?
That's right.
Okay. And the only, and like I said, I don't have a super strong opinion on this. Just question for the group. Why not Labor Day and Memorial Day? Or, I mean, I guess, and like I said, I don't have a super strong opinion.
Okay, we'll let Mr. Lawrence respond to that. Let Mr. Crane make a comment first, and then while Mr. Lawrence kind of thinks that over. Go ahead, Mr. Crane.
Well, I'm generally, I said this before, I'm generally in favor of calendar option B. I'm just looking at kind of the proposals there. And I generally like what the motion that's on the table. I understand the need for some expediency here. I still wouldn't mind maybe having some parental involvement, even if we approve this, just kind of after the fact. I'm just going to leave that there. It's not a question. Just leave that there.
Okay. Mr. Lawrence, any comment about using Labor Day instead of the 4th of January?
Yeah, I would, I don't think that would be a problem. Labor Day is obviously a very traditional day off for school, but we're not starting school until the Monday before that. So we're going to go to school 5 days and then take a day off. So I think that would be I think people would probably feel comfortable with that. I mean, there are always going to be some folks who have plans for that weekend, but I think that would be a desirable way to keep the full winter break. One thing that did come up, I did get a mention from someone who reminded me that that we're a military friendly district, and
Yes.
that Memorial Day might not be looked on very favorably, probably less favorably than Labor Day, but you still got that 4th. So if you did Labor Day and January 4th, I could find somewhere. The only problem with that calendar is finding somewhere to put that additional work day. Again, we have to have 10 teacher in-service teacher work days. So that would be my biggest problem with a calendar like that. That gives you the 2 days at Christmas, using the January 4th and the September 7th, if we went in that direction, and I just find somewhere to put that teacher work day. And we could definitely get a lot of teacher input on that, when that makes the most sense for our teachers, and see where we can insert that.
I like that thought because Memorial Day, I've already got 2 saying keep Memorial Day, 2 messages saying keep Memorial Day. And I think because we are a military district, and I remember how the Marine Corps loved to get that day many years ago, I would like to see us keep it if at all possible.
So if, Mr. Chair, if you allow me, another option for that teacher work day, we know we've got a lot of training to do at the beginning of the school year. So I think that work day could be shifted to the beginning of the school year. And I think actually it could even be flexible, so that knowing that teachers, just reading that policy that we have on weather makeup days tells me it makes sense that it could be a flexible day, since very much of our professional development for going back to school is in a virtual format. So if teachers can commit to that 8 hours of professional development, whether it's on our learning management system, which everybody's going to need, whether they're teaching virtual or not, our learning management system and several other professional development opportunities that they're going to have that are going to be online, I think we can have a flexible day in August that takes care of that teacher work day on January 4th.
Like that.
Go ahead, Dr. Bradley.
I was just going to say that I'm certainly not against parental input. I've asked for that over and over and over again throughout the last few months. I think that what we're going to get from that is the same thing we got about opening school. It's going to be a split. People have different needs and that sort of thing. So it's going to be hard to get a clear direction, I think, from the input that's going to come in. I could be wrong, but so far my comments have been, you know, all over the place. People have different ideas about what we should do. So I don't know that we're going to be able to come up with anything better that's going to please a larger number of people than whatever we adopt tonight. I'm concerned about pushing the decision off. I think people need to know what we're going to do.
I agree.
And not put them off another couple of weeks. I don't have a strong opinion about Labor Day or Memorial Day. I think that you're going to have people who don't like it either way holiday. If we did have school on Memorial Day, it would be an excellent opportunity to have programs honoring the veterans that gave their lives for the country. We could have veterans come in and talk to the kids and so forth. I mean, it doesn't have to be an unpatriotic act if we did do this. This, you know, people have to understand that we're sort of in an emergency situation here. We're in a mess, and we're going to have to do some things that none of us want to do in order to get out of it. And but if somebody wants to amend my motion to swap days around other than the ones I named, I don't really want to get in the way of that.
Go ahead, Mr. Nessel.
No, I would just say, I mean, my thought process around Labor Day is that with the delay that we've already said we're going to do, it's kind of like Mr. Lawrence said, we just get started and take a holiday. And that was my thought process around that. And I was kind of favorable to what Mr. Lawrence was saying about moving the teacher workday, just because we would have had essentially 2 weeks off. And then, you know, you come back the next week and you still get that Monday off, so to speak. That's all.
Okay, so right now the motion is that we use Memorial Day and the teacher workday on the 4th of January. Does someone want to amend it to get away from Memorial Day? Or Dr. Bradley, do you want to do that? Or
I don't know if I can amend my own motion, but I'll be glad to do that.
I think if I may keep.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
You know, Dr. Bradley, he made a good point in that Memorial Day could be used to recognize our veterans. And it is, even though I'm concerned about the military and us not forget the role they have played in our freedoms of our country. But I think that could be a good answer for a 1 year time. And I kind of like that thought, Dr. Bradley.
I don't have a strong feeling. I'd much rather somebody who has a strong feeling make a motion to amend my motion. Because I don't know how to amend it to make somebody else meet somebody else's need.
All right, go ahead, Ms. Jackson.
All right, I would like to amend Dr. Bradley's motion that we take Memorial Day off of the table and replace it with the, I believe it's going to be the Labor Day. That's my amendment to that motion.
I'll second that.
And it's okay.
Okay, yeah, it's been moved and seconded that the motion be amended to swap Memorial Day for Labor Day. So now we have to, so we'll have a discussion on that before we vote on that. So go ahead, Mr. Moulton.
It's actually a positive discussion that someone pointed out to me, and that is by choosing Labor Day, we actually take care of one of those cohort issues of that day being a day off.
Yes.
That's actually a positive thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Any other discussion?
Chair, can I show you what that calendar would look like?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So here's what that calendar would look like. Labor Day becomes a regular school day. We get back the 21st and 22nd for Christmas break or winter. The 4th becomes a regular school day, so students would come back on the Monday after New Year's. And what I did was I put that teacher work day because we do have to have 10 teacher work days. I put it over here on August 14th, but as I said, that could be that could be a flexible day, as long as principals and teachers coordinate with each other on doing that professional development that's required. That should take care of that. So what I'd like to do is have it designated as that date, but then it would be up to the principals in the schools to work out the schedules with when the teachers would do that actual professional development.
Okay, good. All right, questions? Let's vote on the amendment that Ms. Jackson made. So
I have a point.
Oh, go ahead,
Sorry.
Mr. Green.
My only concern with Labor Day being right here, I mean, it's and I guess an easy option because it's the closest to us. But at the same time, that might make it the most difficult option because you're still going to have a lot of folks who've already made plans and reservations. I realize there is no ideal anything that we're talking about, but I'll just toss that out there. I think you're going to have a lot of students and probably a lot of teachers that are going to have plans already made for that day. We might have issues there. So that's it. Not a question.
All right. Any other discussion on the amendment? So what we need to vote on first is changing Dr. Bradley's motion from moving Memorial Day to Labor Day. So that's what we're voting on right now. So all those in favor of that, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to ask you after, Mr. Moulton. So that's 6-4. Any against? Mr. Crane? That's 1. And Mr. Moulton, which way would you vote on that?
I'm in favor of Ms. Reinhardt Jackson's motion.
Okay, so that's 7-4, 1 against, so that motion passes. Okay, so now we need to vote on the amended motion, which would be to adopt calendar B with the days, Labor Day being a work day and the 4th of January being a work day, and those 2 days being restored at Christmas time. And then also the flexible work day added on the 14th of August. All right, so any discussion on that? Everyone understand what we're voting on?
Restate that one more time for me.
Yes. Okay, so we would adopt option B, and we would restore the days at Christmas, the 21st and 22nd of Christmas, and those days would be made up by Labor Day, which was September 7th, and also January 4th. So that's where we get those 2 days, and then the 14th we're going to add as a flexible teacher work day. All right. Thank you, Mr. Lawrence. Okay, all those in favor of that stated motion, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Mr. Moulton?
Yes, I'm in favor.
Okay, so that's 8 in favor. So the motion passes unanimously. All right, so I think that's all we need to do tonight, unless anyone else has any other questions or anything. Mr. Lawrence and then Mr. Crane.
Yeah, I just want to remind everybody who might be watching, and if somebody who's not watching, everyone keep spreading the word. Registration deadline is Friday, July 31st. So this coming Friday is the deadline to get your students registered for the 2021 school year. Even though we delayed the start of school until August 31st, the reason that we delayed the start of school was to help us to prepare and get ready and train teachers and have all those cohorts prepared. Well, one of the crucial steps to getting those cohorts ready is having our students registered. So I just want to encourage parents, please go online to our website and finish out. Most of you have done, we're at over 80%, I'm sure. But the last few folks who still need to register your children for the school year, please do that by Friday.
Thank you, Mr. Lawrence. Go ahead, Mr. Crane.
Two things. Number one, Mr. Lawrence, a question, or can you just clarify this? That does not include Aiken Innovate. That is closed, correct?
Aiken Innovate is closed. Yes, sir.
All right. And then just the second piece, with that new brand spanking new calendar that we just took hot off the presses, can you shoot that out to us, please?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Silas and then Mr. Nessel.
Mr. Lawrence, just an update on planning. How long do you think it will be before all the teacher movements are complete and principals know, what they're dealing with in their building with regard to, planning their schedules?
A lot of that is going to depend on HR, but also instruction. I see that Ms. Glover is up there, so I'll let Ms. Glover respond to that. And then if Ms. Hart has anything to add, I may ask her to add to that, because it's a lot of moving parts. It's getting the instructional systems ready to go, getting the technology systems ready to go, and also getting the personnel in place. So Ms. Glover, if you go first on that.
Well, so I was getting on too, because I didn't see Jennifer on, but there she is. As Mr. Lawrence mentioned, Aiken Innovate is closed. We're continuing to go through those rosters, making contacts to make sure individuals know and are committed to what they've signed up for. And figuring out class rosters has been a tedious task. I think the elementary level is almost done. And Ms. Hart, if you want to speak to that, I know she's been contacting schools, and I think we have 3 schools left, maybe, Jennifer, at the elementary level.
Right. So we have 2.5 schools left. So I have half of the confirmed school and 2 that we're still waiting on. But we are almost done with elementary. So that was the 134 teacher group. I have loaded all of the course schedules and for high school, and that one is a bit more complex. It's not as simple as a first grade teacher. And so we'll have a little bit more help tomorrow, but we should be able to identify and define our specific needs tomorrow and then match it to the teachers who have requested virtual, and then seek additional volunteers as needed to fill that need. And then we'll begin on middle school, hopefully tomorrow afternoon or Friday. I might be a little bit overzealous.
That's fine for me. I appreciate it. Thus the reason, you could probably use a little more time. So
thank you. I would like to say, though, I would like to add that we do have a wonderful cadre of ACVA teachers who've been teaching some of our high school credit courses for years. And so we have the experience there that we'll draw from. And I'm sure many of those people will be interested in once we find out all the course requests that we have.
Go ahead, Mr. Nessel.
I'm good. Pass.
Okay, Ms. Shealy wanted to make a comment too, so go ahead, Ms. Shealy.
Okay, thank you. I just want to say quickly that I appreciate the work that all the board has done tonight, and the staff, everyone at the district, and I'm sorry that I couldn't join by Zoom tonight because in our rural areas, because I know that that's going to be crucial for our students and our staff. So, I just, again, appreciate everything and thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Shuey. Go ahead, Ms. Jackson.
I just have a question, King. When will, or do we have a tentative date as to when parents will start being informed about Aiken and Bates?
Ms. Glover, I know we're already doing that. I was told of 400 or 500 phone calls that were made yesterday. So calls are being made and contacts are being made individually with those families. So 7,000 students, we can get that done in a little over a week at 400 or 500 a day. So our counselors and administrators and district office folks are helping them with a lot of that. So we're making those contacts and getting them up to speed. And then as soon as we have devices available for them, we'll start deploying those to them as well. So that's all being done as we speak.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions?
One more.
Okay, Dr. Bradley.
The software that we're going to use for distance learning is not Zoom, I hope.
No, sir.
I hope it worked a little bit. I got, while this was going on, I got a text wanting to know how we were going to run a virtual program if we couldn't even run a board meeting without technical difficulties.
Yeah. Well, this is not
my
a
answer
learning
was,
management.
my answer was that I hoped that our software for distance learning was better than the Zoom model, but I just wanted to verify that.
Yes, sir. It is much better. This is not a learning management system. This is just what it is. It's an opportunity. It allows people to see each other as they communicate in larger groups. Our learning management system, Schoology, we've been using for a while. We have some top-notch experts in the use of that system here in our school district. We've got teachers who have been using it with our high school courses in ACVA for years. So we've got the expertise here in the district. We've got a quality product that we're using. What we're putting into that product, into that learning management system, is an even more quality product. The curriculum pieces that our staff are creating. And so we're going to share that expertise with all of the new virtual teachers, and pretty soon all of them are going to be experts.
Thank you.
All right, I think I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move we adjourn.
Second.
All right, it's moved and seconded. All those in favor, raise your hand. All right, any opposed? Nope. So motion carries, and we'll see you in about 10 days or so. Thank you.
Thank you.